Hey Internet, want to talk about an amazing series consisting of two funny, optimistic buddies who go through the world and face all sorts of well-crafted misadventures? Well, too bad. Today we're taking a look back at Fanboy and Chumchum. Now, I remember a lot of people hating on this show when it first came out, and honestly, as a kid, I didn't think it looked that bad, but I didn't quite like the stories. So I decided now that I'm older, I wanted to see if it was any good. And it can be, but usually it isn't. It does have some good jokes, but it's often covered up with gross out humor, or the main characters being annoying to the cast and even the audience. That's not to say the show didn't have any good qualities, because it does. The world is strange and can be fun with cartoony logic. The animation, despite the fact that I don't believe it should have been 3D, did have a lot of effort behind it. And while most jokes don't land, there are a few that do, or some standout funny moments in the show. I watched all of season 1, and I'll talk about an episode I like and one I hate. But first, let's look into some of the people that worked on this show. Show creator Eric Robles, born on May 9th, 1976 in Burbank, California, got his start as a character designer on Toonsylvania in 1998. According to IMDb, he continued as a character designer on various shows: Evil Con Carne, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, The X's, and of course he also worked as a character designer on Fanboy and Chumchum. And you know, his character designs are really awesome, and it shows in the Fanboy and Chumchum title cards, but I think they're meant for a more flat 2D look than for the round 3D landscape. Every time I see the title cards, I think the show would be 20% better in 2D. I think that's where a lot of the criticism in how the show looks come in. I know Nickelodeon brought us Jimmy Neutron 3 years before this, but I don't think Nickelodeon was really the studio to handle that 2D kind of style in a 3D format. At least not at the time, especially not on a TV budget and schedule. That doesn't mean the animators for Fanboy and Chumchum didn't try their best, because despite the bad translation in art style, the character movement themselves look really good sometimes. But my guess is it was always planned to be 3D animated, as the series was based on Robles' short, Fanboy, that was aired on Random Cartoons, an animated anthology that aired on Nicktoons featuring about 39 segments, each about 7 minutes long. And yeah, this was made by the same guy who created Oh Yeah Cartoons, a Cartoon Network anthology that I don't remember but was apparently sentient for, as it took place in the early 2000s. Out of all 39 shorts, 2 were picked up to become series and 1 was picked up to be a web series, which is how we got Adventure Time, Bravest Warriors, and of course the topic of today's video, Fanboy and Chumchum. Now, let's move on to voice actors. The main characters are Fanboy and Chumchum, 2 friends who live in a clubhouse together and wear underwear over their pants to simulate the look of superheroes, which they're pretty passionate about, and they have absolutely no parental supervision. Fanboy is a narcissistic, overactive kid who tends to cause or worsen most of the conflict. Fanboy is voiced by David Hornsby, and on IMDb, David Hornsby is credited as starring in ER, Alien vs. Predator's Requiem, Sanjay and Craig, and Wildvine in Ben 10, the 2016 reboot. He's also in The X's, which I plan to look over at some point. Chum Chum is Fanboy's best friend and usually has more sense than him, but still tends to follow him around on most of his plans. Chum Chum is voiced by Nika Futterman, credited in such roles as Miguel from Maya and Miguel, Catwoman in Batman the Brave and the Bold, Styx the Badger in Sonic Boom and other Sonic media, and Luna from The Loud House, and even Hela in Marvel Rivals, among many other roles. Some other notable characters in the show include Hank Mufflin, their annoyed teacher, Yo, Fanboy and Chum Chum's classmate who is obsessed with kidnapping Chum Chum, Kyle, their classmate who's a literal wizard, the Ozman, a comic shop owner and friend to our main characters, Lenny, an overworked convenience store employee, and Boog, Lenny's co-worker who acts as a bully to everyone, especially to Fanboy and Chum Chum. Boog is voiced by Jeff Bennett, who gave us this little gem.
Wait a minute. Beep, beep, boop. Chimp Chomp goes boop, boop, beep. Something ain't right here.
And finally, the janitor, a Star Wars reference and poop joke rolled into one. Janitor Poopatine. That is literally his name, in the show, and every time it's said, Chum Chum repeats it, so don't worry about missing this painfully unfunny joke.
So, you thought you could make a mess in my cafeteria? It's Janitor Palpatine! Boop.
Now, as set by my last cartoon video, I'll analyze 2 episodes. One I thought was good, or in this case, better, and one I personally disliked. Now, most of the better episodes were a bit bland with some good jokes, but I did manage to find one episode that was okay. But I only watched season 1, so if you want me to check out season 2, leave some comments letting me know and I'll work on another video about it. So Fanboy and Chumchum is your average cartoon that runs about 22 to 23 minutes. However, each episode is split into 2 different segments. So just in watching season 1 alone, I watched 52 different segments of Fanboy and Chumchum.
Stu, what are you doing?
Making chocolate pudding.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning. Why on earth are you making chocolate pudding?
Because I've lost control of my life.
I did manage to find a segment I enjoy, and that one is Season 1, Episode 20, Stan Arctica. Here we start off with Fanboy and Chumchum reading a comic with their favorite ice-themed hero, Man Arctica, who is fighting a villain based on global warming, when the hero slips into a black hole. While the comic is being read, this is happening in real time for the superhero and he gets spit out on Earth. Because the comic ends with him gone, people believe he's dead, and he uses this as an excuse to retire. Not unlike another superhero-based media. But Man Arctica needs a job now that he's on Earth. He gets hired at Oz's comic shop under a Clark Kent-esque disguise, and despite all the amazing feats he pulls, no one realizes he's a hero. Instead, Fanboy, in a grief of losing his hero in such a lame way, plans to put a hole in the ozone layer to bring the global warmer to Earth, and stop the villain himself. Of course, Stan tries to stop them while keeping his identity a secret. However, global warmer crashes into the shop with everyone thanks to Oz's old mom making a hole in the ozone layer via air conditioning usage. Now obviously Fanboy is outmatched to a real supervillain, and Stan saves them from the villain, revealing he is Man Arctica. He then defeats the villain and things go back to normal as Man Arctica returns to superhero work and things go back to the status quo. All in all, it had a good joke or two, and despite having the hero exit on a fart joke, it felt pretty creative. As this episode apparently aired a day before Megamind came out. I also did enjoy Season 1, Episode 4 segment Digital Pet Cemetery, but I wanted to talk about an episode that premiered a bit later in the season. Now, time for an episode I hate. And yeah, I know hate is a strong word, and that's why I used it. Now, I chose Season 1, Episode 1, Pick a Nose. At least where I watched it, it was Episode 1, but Wikipedia has a different airing order, so I don't know.
I've lost control of my life.
This episode is pretty gross, so disclaimer for anyone squeamish. Alright, on screen, I'll put in a little thing where you can skip to the conclusion of the video, just because this one is really gross. So skip to that time right there, if you want to skip the bad episode analysis. The episode starts with Fanboy and Chumchum waking up, excited for school picture day. We see them get ready, showering in their costumes, getting their hair ready, and after reviewing their looks, Fanboy steals Chumchum's nose off his face in a got your nose bit. Fanboy then puts Chumchum's nose on his face, and Chumchum does the same with Fanboy's nose. This gives Fanboy the idea that they should keep their noses swapped for picture day. The two believe they will blow people's minds when, in reality, this isn't funny to anyone except them. After getting to school, Fanboy disrespects Chumchum's nose, calling it pig-like, making Chumchum want to trade back. However, Fanboy refuses. In Chumchum's rage, he pops the nose off, causing it to ricochet around the class and bounce back to his face. After performing this trick again, Fanboy attempts a trick with the nose on his face, leading to a snot-covered sneeze, revealing Chumchum's nose had a cold that now affects Fanboy. Chumchum then continues to pull off various tricks and feats with his switched nose. At lunch, a suffering Fanboy regrets his deal and tries to get his nose back, but Chumchum refuses, using Fanboy's words from earlier against him. After getting a bit salty, Fanboy tries to trick Chum Chum to get his nose back by pretending to be the school nurse. This scene features the only good joke in the entire episode.
Fanboy, you've been a school nurse all these years, just so you could steal my nose!
And this is where the episode starts to really go downhill. So I'll put another time skip if you want to skip the grossest part of the episode. Alright, there. After this fails, Fanboy attempts to get his nose back through using it to smell the worst smells he can, which affects Chum Chum. And Chum Chum retaliates by doing the same thing. And it is gross. I literally watched this with my boyfriend, and he ended up gagging. Like, they smell dirty gym clothes, teachers' feet, which, bro, what the fuck? And worst of all, Chum Chum removes his nose from his face and literally farts into it. At the end of this scent assault, Fanboy threatens to destroy Chum Chum's nose by throwing it in what is essentially cafeteria acid. Chum Chum pleads for it back, but the lunch lady dumps it in anyway. After a moment of panic, Fanboy reveals he had Chum Chum's nose hidden away in a ring case, which makes no sense, but they had to wrap up this 11-minute segment somehow. The duo, now with their original noses covered in filth, go to take their school picture, which we learn is a scratch and sniff because they had to end it on one final gross smell joke. This episode was full of Fanboy being a jerk to his best friend, mostly a bunch of gross out humor that's I don't even know if kids would tolerate, but I guess it has one good joke in it. Now, after looking at these two episodes personally, I wouldn't really recommend this show. It has a few good jokes, but they're few and far between. Especially as I watch further into the series, it started to just get pretty boring. The character designs are interesting, but they don't feel like they're meant for the 3D space they're in. And there's just so many jokes that are based on gross out and being annoying that end up making the characters unlikable. At least that's my thoughts for season 1. If you want me to check out season 2 and dig deeper into this series, I will. Maybe there's some hidden gems in season 2 that I just don't know about. Just make sure you comment it down below the video. And if you like the video, hey, like it. I mean, you know, the little button thingy. It would really help and I'd really appreciate it, but no pressure. Alright, see you next video.